Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for coming watch. So I've got an update for you guys on this major rainstorm that has really been pumping a lot of moisture and rainfall into the eastern U.S. and moving towards the East Coast. And we also do have a little backside snowfall event for the North Central, which could actually end up piling feet of snow in places like Wisconsin and Minnesota. So we have two main things that we're going to be talking about, and then the rest of the country you can see is completely dry and kind of at peace. So the entire western half of the country, that was a pretty big circle, but the entire west of the half of the country is really going to be enjoying their weekend, today, because also one thing that this ridge has actually been defeated in the southeast. So this is very big news for us, in terms of people who watch the weather patterns and everything. That means that basically what we're going to be start to be seeing is a lot more warm weather, and maybe even hot weather in the western U.S. So once we start getting into that more of a change with that temperature pattern, you're going to see at first there's going to be a very big blast of heat, which actually the entire western U.S. is in right now, and then it's going to settle down a little bit, but soon it should be balanced where some areas, a little bit of areas in the far northern U.S. are going to be in some cooler temperatures. Then pretty much everyone around the country is going to have the same kind of temperature, but really just depends on what uh, kind of region you're in. But let's get back to the video. So just want to point out again that there is this very strong band of rainfall that has been moving into the northeast. Should be moving out of the northeast probably by tomorrow, and then once we get into the Tuesday. But I mean, these are some pretty strong to severe thunderstorms just off the coast of North Carolina. The strongest severe threat has actually started. I think it was like an hour ago once we start seeing those severe thunderstorm warnings popping up. But and then you've got also that snow that's ongoing here in northern Minnesota and Wisconsin. This is going to continue into the overnight hours and then into tomorrow. So we're going to see two areas of not quite concern, but two areas of some pretty heavy precipitation, both rain and snow. So we're going to move on to your alerts. So let's see what we've got going on right now. And basically what you've got is, you can see the western US. There is a lot of action in the western US, but this is all from that huge amount of storm systems that kept pummeling the west coast. So you can see here that you've got a bunch of coast not I don't think this is coastal flood advisories. These are just flood watches. And then you've also got lakeshore flood warnings. This is actually just due to how there is so much snow melt from going on, just because there has been a historic snowfall season for the northwestern US. So all that snow melt is causing those rivers, lakes, and just a lot of water in there. So even though it's dry, you have dry conditions, it's still kind of damp with like the ground and the dirt, because you might see some mud around here because there's a lot of mudslide potential, especially in like the mountains and upper elevations uh, of the northwest. And you could see that a lot of Nevada, a lot of southeastern Idaho, and then a lot of northwestern and central California. All of you guys are under. It looks like this is a lakeshore flood warning. Yeah, I believe that's what it is. So you've got that going on. You've got these spotty flood warnings, just because that's just for those rivers that are like overflowing their banks right now as I speak. Oh, and then you got this hydraulic outlook. Just meaning showing that because temperatures are going to be rising, you always want to stay hydrated, just to make sure that nobody is going to be caught off guard here in the northwest, just because it's been so cold lately, and then now it's getting really hot, that no one is actually like expecting it to be cold, but realizing too late that it's going to be actually hot. Then what we've got going on in the eastern U.S. is we do have a special marine warning that goes out for the coastal regions of southeastern South Carolina. You got storm warnings for the coast of Maine. This is very interesting. If we clicked on that, you would see a lot of risks for a lot big waves. Big waves are going to be the issue for tonight. I think there's going to be a lot of coastal flooding tonight. This is a flood, event. This is not even like a severe weather event, even though you'd think like when you look at the radar, you looking at this, you would think that, oh, this looks like this could be a severe weather event, but actually this is just a lot of heavy rainfall that's going to be piling up, or adding up, I should say. On top of that, you have the very gusty winds that are going to be pushing some of that overflowing water into the streets right on the waters. So those streets, like any street where it's close enough to the water where you can see it, I think that is, that street has a very large risk for, being flooded. But everyone here in this flood watch, you should be all on alert for some very active, like rivers, lakes, anything in here, like any rivers or lakes in this area here, of southern New York State. A lot, looks like all of New Jersey and the entire eastern half of PA. All of you guys have to be on alert all day today for some flash flooding. That's what the flood watch means. Now we do have a flood warning, but I believe it's only for one county. Um, I'm not sure. I think it's up here in northern Southern Maine, and looks like that's Vermont or New Hampshire. I get the two mixed up all the time. But, there are a lot of flood warnings out here right now. This storm is ongoing, at its peak right now in Southern Maine. So you guys got to be on alert. If we looked at once we take a look at the map, you could see all of you guys in Southern Maine could see up to anywhere from 3 inches to 5 inches of rain. So it's incredible here. Otherwise, you do have a wind advisory, and I believe that's also a lake wind advisory that goes out for South Carolina, a little bit of South Carolina, a lot of the panhandle of Florida, but it's only the eastern coast that's affected by this. If you look, almost all of the western coast is free of this wind advisory, I think it would be. But you could see that, like the Keys, Key West, that area, that vicinity, you guys are in that wind advisory, but overall, just the entire western coast of the Panhandle of Florida is pretty much safe from all those winds. So that's pretty much it. You do also one more thing. You do also have this winter storm warning that goes out for northern Michigan and northern Wisconsin, and then a few winter weather advisories. I don't really understand why I only have 4 counties in northern Wisconsin in those winter weather advisories, because this whole area here that I'm circling, this whole area could definitely see at least 6 inches of snow. So I think there should definitely be a lot more warnings or advisories in this area that's farther south. And I wouldn't be surprised if we did see a winter storm watch come into play. So we'll obviously continue watching that. But otherwise, I think the rest of the country is pretty much dry and safe from all this dangerous weather. So we're gonna move on to the I believe this is southeast. Yeah, this is the southeast. So you can see that we're looking at the NAM 3KM model. This is the closest NAM model that is, well, the closest model from the NAM that kind of looks like a weather radar. So I like using this because it has a lot of high resolution in it. So high resolution meaning you can really see each detail on every storm cell and every band of rainfall within every storm. So with this storm, you could see how dense this rainfall is, meaning how heavy it's going to be. That green, that's most likely very light rain if it's showing up on the NAM. But those reds, those pinks, those purples, that is extremely heavy rainfall. That is the rainfall that is going to cause flash flooding. So this was 9 a.m. this morning, and you didn't really have that much going on. You'd think that because this low pressure center is all the way offshore already, you'd think that this morning and this afternoon would be mostly dry for the entire southeast. I know all of you in the western half of the southeast, you guys are all dry. Even this morning, you guys were dry, but the eastern half is still wet. But look at this. This storm is actually going to be taking a turn, and it's going to be riding. It's going to be hugging the coastline. Because if we would, I think if we would guess, most people would say that this low pressure center is just going to move offshore and continue moving into no man's land. But this is actually going to be moving along the coastline. So very interesting to see this odd movement. But it will take a turn eventually. But that was 9 a.m. We could see 10 a.m. This quickly grows in size, and then there you see it's march. It's starting to march up the coast, and this is going to be 3 p.m. So in an hour, this is pretty much what it's going to be looking like. You do have a line of storms which is embedded with a high flood risk that's going to be moving into parts of North Carolina, the central part of North Carolina. I think the western part, you guys will see relatively heavy rain, but a lot less than what the eastern half is going to see. But what you're seeing right now is basically a lot more heavy rainfall offshore. So let me get rid of the sounding here. You could see like all of these like rain bands and storm cells. These are all showing up offshore, and they have a little pink and purple to it. That's indicating rainfall rates of like an inch per hour. I mean, that is insane. But luckily, that is actually offshore. So really, all you should be concerned about, is just these groups of rainfall right here. Otherwise, I think these shouldn't be harming anybody unless there's any boats out there that are going to be in the way of this. But I think most of the heaviest rain is actually offshore now. But watch as this just passes the border of North Carolina and Virginia. You do get another a spark up with this. Like just around the low pressure center of this, drops to a 983 millibar low pressure. So around 5 p.m., be on alert. If you are along the northeastern border of North Carolina and Virginia, you've really got to watch this, because this storm cell is really going to be developing fast, and it's going to be developing as the storm moves along. So that means you guys got to be ready for some very intense rainfall, some lightning. I think this is a storm that's going to produce that severe weather, if there is going to be any. So the reason why we have a slight risk up for severe weather is because of this system. So because of this storm cell. So really watch this. So this is going to be, I believe this is going to be northeast of Raleigh. I'm not familiar with the Raleigh, but I'm not familiar with this area here. But I think that this would be in that vicinity. So this is going to pass over many upper elevations of North Carolina, including the eastern half, because you could see that the storm does grow, not quite like close to the very close to the border of Tennessee and North Carolina, but a little bit farther, to the east. So maybe you're saying, maybe I shouldn't say the western half. Maybe I should just say the central parts of North Carolina, and then obviously the eastern parts. But that when is this going to impact? Well, probably around 5 p.m. Because you could see it actually. It's pretty. It takes a jump back south. It's like it's not done developing yet, so it takes a jump back south to like gain some time with this, and then you can see that it matures, and it becomes a very strong band of rainfall, and then that moves into the mid-Atlantic and the Northeast. Then after this is already 10 p.m. and everyone is done with the precipitation. Maybe some lingering rain showers out here. And then you're going to get a little bit of a cold front here. So what does that mean? You're going to have temperatures dipping into the 50s, maybe even the upper 40s for parts of Tennessee, West Virginia, and then maybe even parts of Western Virginia. Not West Virginia, but Western Virginia. That's what I'm talking about right here. And then a little bit of Western North Carolina. And then once we get into like the really late overnight hours, you'll start seeing more of that cold air moving into those regions. And then, the upper elevations of West Virginia, you guys could have some snowfall. Very light snow, almost no accumulation. I mean, I wouldn't even think that there would be any accumulation with this, just because the ground is still very wet. And then another band of rainfall is going to try and sneak its way down into parts of Virginia, but this is only going to make it to West Virginia at most, and then a little bit more of a stronger band of snowfall could make it through, but otherwise, that's pretty much it. And then yeah, so the starts here in May should be pretty dry, and you'll have this high pressure center take over the southeast. So we're going to be looking at here the wind, the wind energy and the wind flow. So basically, what this map is going to be telling us is there's an upper level jet that's going to be producing those very gusty winds, and this map is going to show us, how strong that upper level jet is. So the stronger the winds are, in the upper elevations, meaning in like closer to the atmosphere. Well, that's going to tell you how strong those winds are going to be directly over, any place or certain state that we're looking at. So right off the bat, you can tell that the stronger wind gusts are way offshore, which we can totally understand because of what we just looked at with the NAM, where that low pressure center is actually going to be moving offshore many times today. So you can see that wind gusts, well, not quite wind gusts, but you're gonna have enough wind energy offshore to have wind gusts that could get up to 70 knots. I mean, this is a very intense band of wind, is what I'll call it. But even close to like the coastal regions of Georgia and South Carolina, you still have enough wind energy to create wind gusts up to 50, maybe even approaching 60-mile-an-hour knots. Or sorry, I don't know why 60 knots. So the onshore wind gusts, they will definitely be a lot weaker, but you still could have wind gusts that could get up to 45 knots to maybe possibly 50 knots, but that would have to be the extreme coastal regions of Florida, Georgia, and then South Carolina. But we would have to wait until probably tonight. Until probably tonight is when we'll start seeing the Carolina coast really start getting impacted by what we're expecting tonight with those wind gusts. You can see that this is actually touching the coastal regions of North Carolina. So you can see this little point here. You guys could get up to 50 knots. And well, that's what it's gonna be. That's what it's gonna be like high in the atmosphere. But if we went to lower dynamics to see, where how strong those winds are gonna be, a little bit lower. So we could, if we go to, I don't know if actually the parameter that I want to look at is available for the HRRR, but that's all right. But anyways, if we looked at the lower dynamics, you would see, a better view of how strong those wind gusts are going to be closer to the ground. So, even if I'm saying that like there could be 45 knots in terms of wind gusts for South Carolina and Georgia, I mean that definitely could happen, but but what I'm talking about is that's what's definitely going to be happening in the upper elevations closer to the atmosphere. So it's not, it's likely to happen when you see this like 34 knots right here along the border of South Carolina and Georgia. Well, that means that this is definitely going to be happening in the upper elevations, so closer to the atmosphere. But it's likely to possible in the closer to the ground. So just something to point out there. But you can clearly see though that there's going to be a lot stronger wind gusts once we get into the overnight hours for those areas further north. So, even on the backside of this, South Carolina is still going to be gusting. Some places could be gusting to 30 to 35, maybe even 40 knots. So, it's going to get very breezy and windy out there. So, you're going to have just a few periods of maybe 15 to 30 to maybe even 45 minutes of wind gusts that could get up to like 45 knots to 50 knots. I mean, that is incredible. But for a flood, for a flood event, I mean that's very strong, and that's also concerning because that's just gonna elevate the flood threat even more. But then you're gonna get another brief, strengthen with these wind gusts here. So just this would be a few thousand feet in the air above central North Carolina. You guys could definitely see wind gusts that could reach 50 knots to maybe even higher. But just overall, it's going to be a very windy night, and I urge you guys to stay safe. Try not to get outside if you have any plans tonight. I don't think any of you would. If you're living in the southeast, probably because it's just going to be a complete washout this weekend. But then tomorrow should be pretty dry. But otherwise, I just want to make sure that you guys are ready for these very strong wind gusts that are going to be impacting very soon. So we're going to be looking at your severe weather percentages. So this is the SBC Storm Prediction Center, and we're going to be looking at what we're going to be looking at, like how likely are these severe thunderstorms. So we've broken down the threat for flooding, damaging wind gusts, and I think it was heavy rainfall. Yes, heavy rainfall. So now we need to look at severe weather. So we're up to a slight risk today. That's not bad. That's a 2 out of 5 risk for severe weather. This includes just over 4.5 million people. That's a pretty high population considering that we have a pretty small area here. This is including major cities like Virginia Beach, North Fork, Virginia, Chesapeake, Virginia. I don't think I'm saying that right. Newport News, Virginia, and Hampton, Virginia. So you could definitely have quite a few people impacted by severe weather tonight. But the main threat for severe weather is going to be off to the east, mainly because we're starting to see some clearing in the more onshore areas. So that kind of tells you that if there were to be any severe weather onshore, it would be pretty much over by now. So that's just gonna kind of show you where a little bit of a better understanding of where that severe weather is exactly going to be if it happens, and that's really just along the coastline. So anybody in this red area I circled, mainly, especially the North Carolina coastline, anybody in that red circle or red shape, I should say, you guys should definitely be on alert for severe weather. But once again, especially the coastal regions of North Carolina. Tornado threat tonight, only 2%. I really don't think there's going to be any tornadoes tonight. We haven't seen any severe, not severe. We haven't seen any tornado warnings yet today. So, we'll obviously continue watching this, but I really don't think that there's going to be a tornado threat, too big tornado threat tonight. Wind, it's a little higher. That's what we looked at just now, that very elevated wind threat with that very strong upper level jet, and that's going to pose a 15% risk for damaging wind gusts tonight. And then hail, only a 5%. So really, the main threat is flooding and damaging wind gusts. And then tomorrow, we don't even really have to look at this because tomorrow, pretty much the entire country is dry and there's nothing going on. So we are going to be looking at the rainfall totals. So we did break down how there is a very high threat for excessive rainfall and flooding. Well, I think we're past the high threat for excessive rainfall. I think we know that there will be excessive rainfall with this. But I put this out only 18 hours just because that I want to show you guys how much rainfall is going to be falling from now, from like where, from the time I'm uploading this video to whenever the storm ends. So you could see that from now on, there's not going to be any rainfall. For the rest of the storm, there's not going to be any rainfall left over for Louisiana, Arkansas, Mississippi, and a little bit of Alabama. Could see a little bit more rainfall. You can see here only 0.11 inches of rain. Georgia, you'll pretty much be similar to Alabama, except there will be a bigger area with some leftover rainfall. You guys in South Carolina, like I said, the onshore areas of severe weather, that is pretty much over. So that's why you're not seeing crazy amounts like 2 inches showing up here in South Carolina. The most you're going to get is just over an inch along the border of southern North Carolina and northern South Carolina. And then for you guys in North Carolina, you will obviously see a lot more rain than everybody in the southeast. So it looks like you guys could get anywhere from half an inch to a little bit over an inch and a half. Although if you are living in like the coastal regions of South Carolina, you guys will be the ones that could really see those a lot more rain, meaning approaching 2 to maybe even 2.5 inches of rain. But that's pretty much it for the southeast. There's not much to talk about for rainfall totals from now on. I think the most rain you're gonna have. I think the rain that you have now is pretty much what the rainfall total for this entire system is what it's going to be looking like. So we're going to be looking at the northeast. I believe that's what. Yep, it's the northeast. So we're going to be breaking down what these storms are going to be looking at now for the northeast. So you could see that this was 10 a.m. today. You did have some pretty strong storms, not exactly thunderstorms, but some pretty strong rainstorms. But only for the Delmarva area, a little bit of Virginia, a little bit of southern New Jersey, maybe close to Tom's River. But mainly the action is just off to the south. For pretty much all of the Northeast, it's pretty. It's not dry, but it's not too wet. There have been a few relatively strong rain bands that have moved through this morning. But you could see this was 1 p.m. today Eastern time. You could see there was the heaviest rain was falling in central New Jersey, which means that New York City would also see some of that rainfall. But really, the main show is tonight. I think this evening you're gonna have pretty much everyone in a complete rain fest here. You got southern Maine, all of southern Maine, in severe and not severe weather thunderstorms, but very heavy rain. Same thing for you guys in southern Vermont, New Hampshire, New York State, upstate New York State. You guys are gonna get complete downpours tonight. And pretty much the same story for everybody. But look at all these storms just offshore of Delaware, and I mean it's just gonna be crazy tonight. But once this low pressure center moves, right through the heart of New York City, you will have a particularly strong band of rainfall just before that moves in, and that's just gonna be that's gonna be pretty much what it's gonna be looking like for everyone in the Northeast all of tonight. And then even the morning of tomorrow morning, you're still going to have leftover precipitation, but way off to the north than the south. So that brings us to the farther areas farther south, and like the Ohio Valley. Now, you guys, well, you're gonna get a pretty good shot of cold air that's gonna make its way towards the coast, but it's going to be obviously it's going to be reaching the Ohio Valley sooner. So that means that there could be a few leftover snow showers around here flying around. But that also is just gonna give some more rain to places like the Ohio Valley, PA eventually, and then upstate New York. But then you do get a pretty strong. I don't want to say strong, but a pretty organized band of snowfall that is going to be moving through central and western PA. And I think that this snowfall could be falling from anywhere from half an hour to 2 hours of just pretty steady light snowfall. So maybe some very, very, very light snowfall accumulations, but otherwise, it's not there's not too much going to be happening after this. Although you will have a brief re-strengthen with another low pressure system that could form right here in upstate New York, but that all that's going to bring is just a few more bands of rainfall to the northeast. So we're going to be looking at the rainfall totals from now into the ending of this system for the northeast now. So we just looked at the southeast. Now this is the rainfall totals from now into the end of the system for the northeast. So what you've got is right off the bat, you could tell that southern Maine and Vermont, New Hampshire, you guys are both all of you guys are going to have the most rainfall out of this. You can see here in southern Maine, you guys could have anywhere from 2 to 4 and maybe even 5 inches of rain. So, with this storm total, from the start of this to the end of this, you guys could end up with 6 or 7 inches of rain. It is incredible. This is like as if a Category 3 hurricane, washed out everybody just without the winds. But still, there are going to be some damaging wind gusts across this entire region, but especially the coastal region. So, if I were to draw right here, I would have, I want to say like anywhere inside of this red circle, you guys do have a slight, I want to say a little bit of, a risk for damaging wind gusts tonight. But otherwise, just in this area of New Hampshire, Vermont, and Maine, you guys could get all the way up to 5 and maybe even 5.5 inches of rain just from now to the end of the system. So this is absolutely incredible. I've like in my time of forecasting severe weather, not only severe weather but flood events too. I've never seen as this much rain fall in like you know just a little amount of time. I mean, this is only like a day or two, and you're gonna get 5 to 6 inches of rain. And then upstate New York, you guys too will see up to 3 inches of rain, mainly central upstate New York is really where you're going to have the most rain for you guys. New York City, from now on, you guys could get pretty much exactly an inch and pretty much just staying around that total of an inch of rain. Across Long Island, you guys could probably approach an inch, but mainly the northwestern area of Long Island is going to see the most rainfall from this from now on. New Jersey, northern New Jersey, you guys are going to get the most out of this probably because the southern half, you guys could see noticeably, you're going to get a lot less rainfall from this. And then the eastern half of Pennsylvania, you guys could get up to 3.5 inches of rain from this little area snaking its way into east central Pennsylvania. You guys could get up to looks like 3 inches of rain. And then for pretty much everyone else, it's anywhere from half an inch to an inch and a half of rain. So that's pretty much it for your rainfall totals in the Northeast. And we're just going to be briefly looking at the North Central because there is a band of snowfall that's going to be moving through, and it's going to bring some pretty strong accumulations. So you can see that once we get through the afternoon hours of today, you can see you've got steady snowfall that's going to get very heavy once we get into the overnight hours of tonight. This is going to be pretty much all of Wisconsin and maybe parts of Michigan included in the snowfall. But this is going to be a very long-lasting event as we're getting into Tuesday, and you're still seeing that very heavy snowfall. And this is only going to start diminishing probably by midday Tuesday. So a very long-lasting snowfall event on the backside of this major washout. You guys could definitely see a lot of snow, and we're just going to be looking briefly at how much snow could fall. And you can see that this is amazing. You could get up to like 2 feet of snow for, I don't want to exaggerate here, but I'm not even joking. Like 2 feet of snow is possible for extreme northern Michigan, this little area here. And you can see anywhere in this like light bluish green here that I'm circling, you got that. This is indicating 2 feet of snow, definitely possible. Anywhere in this pink, you guys could get maybe a foot, a little bit less than a foot, but pretty much the entire state of Wisconsin, you guys will definitely get at least an inch or so of snow. But mainly the eastern half and the northeastern half especially is going to see the more higher snowfall totals, and then very little bit of southern Michigan. You guys could see snowfall totals anywhere from 2 to maybe 3 or 4 inches of snow. But yeah, you're definitely going to have a very active snowfall event here, and we're definitely going to continue watching this. But that's going to wrap up the video, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and if you haven't already, like, share, comment, and subscribe if you're not subscribed to the channel. We'll see you guys in the next update. So I'll continue watching the system for you guys, but stay tuned and stay safe out there. We'll see you guys.